You're listening to the FairTax for All radio program, where we bring you everything and anything fair tax related. And now, your host, Alex Molesky.
I am still enjoying the new intro music. Like I would. Love that song. Anyway, welcome to the FairTax for All radio show, where our discussion is centered around the current U.S. income tax code and the IRS. Our main goals are to educate and inform in order to eliminate the IRS and our horrendous tax code. Listen in this next hour, and I promise you that you will be entertained and you'll learn something also, I hope. As always, in the beginning of the show, I like to give a brief intro to the bill that will do this. This week, I'm going to make it very, very short so I can give you the regular intro later in the show. My reasoning here is that I have a lot of listeners that are on driving schedules. So they have a long ride, but don't get into their cars until about 9:10. And they've missed the scope of the fair tax, at least the intro. So, I've had plenty of callers say, hey, I missed something there. So for now, very short, the fair tax is a bill that eliminates the IRS and replaces the current tax code with a national sales tax of 23% on new goods and services, not used. That's the short version, but I can tell you that you are better off under the fair tax no matter what tax bracket you fall under. Last week on our show, I had yet another listener bring up a great point that I covered on the fair tax, and once again want to extend this movie ticket offer to the October 14th movie Unfair Exposing the IRS to 3 more people that email me a fair tax question. If you haven't heard about the Unfair movie, I encourage you to go to unfairmovie.com. It is a huge nationwide event that you don't want to miss. We also talked about Dr. Ben Carson and his position on taxes. Plus, we covered the frightening IRS scam that 60 Minutes brought to the forefront the other week. Scary, very scary. It was a good show, at least I think so, and Jeremy thinks so. Otherwise, he'll get the wrath of me or my voice cracking. But I have podcasts and also videos with images and charts that go along with everything I'm saying here. I think it's a lot easier to follow. And also, you get to see what I'm wearing if you go to Molesky.com and check it out. I am still waiting for GQ to contact me about the photo shoot. Tick. Yeah, I'll be waiting for a while. Anyway, moving on to this week's show, I need to talk some more about the Unfair movie this week. Specifically, I want to read a paragraph or two from the movie and book, sort of a sneak preview. Lots of tax-related events going on around the country in the next month. We have the fair tax talks, events. We have the big Unfair movie. We have midterm elections, many, many, many things going on. So we are very busy. If you looked at my desk, you'd laugh. My office is just an utter mess. That's why I focus right on me and this beautiful banner right behind me about the Unfair movie. But anyway, I want you to listen in for the next hour. I'm going to cover so much about the IRS and the fair tax. And after me, we'll have some guy named Dennis Prager coming on, who is also a fair tax fan. And he'll entertain you probably a little bit too, I'm guessing. Okay, let's move on. First thing I'd like to mention is that I was promoted. There has been some restructuring around the nation as the fair tax has moved towards grassroots organization, starting at the state and local level and moving up versus the national level moving down. Our national group is still very, very active, and as our support network, sort of like letting our representatives come to a hub and give our 2 cents. But it's been a great relationship and should enable us to get the word out even better than in years past, this new setup. In the state of Arizona, in regards to the fair tax, many of the people around the state have shifted their main focuses away from the fair tax and onto the Convention of States project. These folks are fair taxers still. They love the fair tax and they support the fair tax, but they just felt in order to be more effective, they're focusing on one main area to be more productive. And I take my hats off to them, and we both support the other's focuses as they are both related to one another in many ways. So that said, the ball is bounced, and I've been installed as the new FairTax director in the state of Arizona. So, Jeremy, I'm in charge now.
Oh, I'm excited about this. I like a little power.
Little power trip. No, same person, same passion, just a different title. I am very appreciative, though, of the faith that has been placed in me and my abilities to help lead Arizona to do our part in the movement towards a fair tax country. So thank you. Moving on. As I'm talking about the unfair movie, but I have some more things here. I really want to get to this in the first part. I wanted to remind everybody that the IRS movie Unfair, Exposing the IRS, is coming out in just 10 days. October 14th, one night only, 7 p.m. And I am talking a lot about the movie this week and next week because I believe it is such an important vehicle to get us to real tax reform in 2016. It's also the first movie I know of its sort, full length, wonderfully produced, great team involved in this. Think Dinesh D'Souza's 2016 Obama's America. So we're talking some high-end quality production and high-end people involved. This could be a huge vehicle towards tax reform, folks, towards getting rid of the IRS. So, yeah, I am pushing a little bit on the show this week and the next week, because it is that important. I will point out that it is a vehicle. Vehicles need drivers and lots of passengers on board to make the trip worthwhile. So please get on board with this. It's what a great way to make your voice heard. Go to the movie. It's a good movie that is also somewhat interactive. You'll be able to say you were a part of tax reform. Trust me, I know it sounds silly just going to a movie, but for each person that gets out there, we are that much closer. I can't explain it as well as the people who are producing the movie, but mainstream Hollywood doesn't think we can do this. Doesn't think we can make this movie a success. And we're already showing in the early numbers that it's looking good, but we need you. We need more. We need people involved. It's entertainment. You go to a movie, you help a cause, you help tax reform. I mean, how great. You can go to a movie and create real change for the better for you, for your children, grandchildren, future generations. Anyway, if you are a group and would like to send me to send you some handout cards for your meetings before October 14th, then please contact me. Email me. Go to my website, Molesky.com, and contact me. If you're linked to Facebook, you can go to the show page and post a request. I'm there too much. If you want to sponsor the movie, let me know. Basically, if you are, fat cat, have tons of money, and or just have a big group and want to rent out a theater, I can help you arrange that. If you want to be a captain of the movie, that would entail you greet attendees and talking a little before the movie, maybe, to the audience, and go to unfairmovie.com for more details. There are still some theaters that need captains. That's what I'm doing at the Desert Ridge AMC Theater in Arizona. We need to step it up, folks. We need to flood the theaters with attendees. So get your tickets, buy 2 extra, and invite friends, but stand up and make your voice heard. This is going to be a great night. I actually have something to read to you. I received the first chapter of the Unfair book as a bonus for being a theater captain. I just want to read a paragraph or two from the book, which the movie is based on. And the first chapter is full of great points that made me have to stop, just like some of these great books I've read in the past on the taxes and fair tax, like Bortz's book, just to nod my head in agreement or frustration or just to ponder, wow, holy moly, and for the obvious truth of abuses in the tax code. Here's one short paragraph, very short. The American Revolution was fought over tax rates of 2 to 4%. Today, Americans pay 10 times more than that amount that drove our founding fathers to war. Think about that. We pay 10 times more than what drove our founding fathers to war. They knew there was a problem with income taxes or taxes without representation. Think about from a brief period of war tax during the Civil War, we had over 120 years without an income tax, where we were able to fund our government programs, school our children, and defend our borders with great success. All without this income tax, all without this IRS. In fact, we had one of the fastest growing economies in the world. All we've gotten from 100 years of the IRS and income taxes is a bloated government less expendable personal income, greater loss of freedom, and of course, a population that has become complacent or accepting of income taxes because they are too young to remember what it was like without an income tax. They were fighting in the streets over 2 to 4% taxation 240 years ago, and now we just accept it? Come on, get to the movie. Let me read another paragraph from this book. This next paragraph is right in my wheelhouse of the reasons that I support the fair tax. Here it is. Tax reform advocates are often criticized for focusing too much on dollars and cents, issues instead of on moral issues. But as philosopher and essayist Ralph Waldo Emerson said 150 years ago, a dollar is not value, but representative of value, and at last, of moral value. More recently, scholars like former Education Secretary Bill Bennett and Nobel Prize-winning economist Milton Friedman have pointed out that every time you take a dollar out of one person's pocket and put it into another's, you are making a moral decision. I love that paragraph. Craig Bergman goes on, but I don't want to tell you too much. Suffice it to say, the moral decision should be the person that holds the dollar should be making that decision. After all, our government is set up where our Constitution, while not giving us our rights, acknowledges them. Somehow taking from one person and giving to another without consent does not sound like a natural right, folks. I'm thoroughly enjoying the first chapter of the book, which is what I was given to review. It is rather well marked up right now with my colored pen. It's a good tool for going back afterwards over the tax system and writing the ship as it was envisioned by our founding fathers. So I'm excited about getting the whole book. You know, I'm a captain, but I don't get the whole mission right up front. They're just trying to keep me amped up for the 14th movie. We're going to go to break in just a minute. After we get back, I'm going to offer you up a big promotion we're giving for the movie. And you know what? Maybe over the break, I'm going to give Craig a call because I got to speak with him last night and he had some fun stuff we were going over. So, folks, we're going to be right back after these messages in a few minutes. And let's see if I can get Mr. Craig Bergman on the phone for just a minute. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Fair Tax for All radio show. I'm your host, Alex Molesky, talking fair tax, and specifically seems like we're pushing on the IRS this week. Tried to call Craig. Told you I was going to have him on here. He's in a bank. What he's doing, I don't know. I hope he's not getting money out to pay his taxes, his income taxes. That would really be frustrating. Anyway, as promised, I was going to hold up and talk about the fair tax basics later in the show. And this is for the listeners. Plenty of you have said, hey, I miss the intro all the time. So here we go. The fair tax is a bill that eliminates the IRS and replaces the current tax code with a national sales tax of 23% on new goods and services not used. There will be no more FICA taxes out of your paychecks. That's 23% sales tax collects that 7.65% that we all get taken out of our paychecks, and it's needed to fund Medicare and Social Security. The fair tax does not eliminate any government plans, just the collection method of taxation. In addition to replacing the income tax, the fair tax also provides each Social Security card holding person a monthly prebate check to cover the 23% sales tax up to the poverty level. This is not welfare. It is only to ensure we are not taxed on necessities. The fair tax lowers the tax rate on every tax bracket and at the same time helps to address the issues of our growing, unsustainable national debt. It is a tax plan that shrinks the size of government and puts every American in a better financial position. Please go to fairtaxcalculator.org and enter your own information, enter your own numbers to see if you'd be better off under the fair tax versus the current income tax. I know the answer, but once you do this, you will realize how great it is. I want you to call after you see this. I want you to call all of your U.S. House representatives, Senate representatives, and ask them to support it. Okay. All right. I'm glad I held off. I wanted to give that little my intro to the show later into the show. So thanks. I really appreciate one of my listeners specifically say, come on, I miss the beginning of the show every week. And there were a few other people that chimed in and said, yep, we miss it because of work. So there you go. I hope that helps a little bit. And moving on, I think I have Craig. Craig, you out of the bank, man?
I am out of the bank and in lovely traffic.
Nice. I was just telling my listeners, I really hope you weren't going to the bank to get money out to pay your taxes.
No, I'm getting money out to send wires to Fox News and all the different people that are advertising for this fine movie.
Outstanding. We're all trying to promote it here in Fair Tax World, too, because even though it's not specifically a fair tax movie, it's about getting rid of the IRS or specifically exposing the IRS for all the damage they're doing to everyone here and invading our freedoms. But specifically why I wanted to call you, it's not about advertising the movie as per se, but I'm a theater captain, and I was on the line with hundreds of other people last night. We're still short a little bit on theater captains, aren't we?
We certainly are, and I'll do the promo. Anyone who goes to unfairmovie.com and volunteers to be a theater captain to help us capture data and turn out people for this, they get free tickets, free T-shirts, and there's still time left. And, of course, the number one reason why we need the theater captains is the movie's going to come close to selling out, if not outright selling out the first night, and we'll get an encore. As long as we can still tell people and turn people out, we'll get another encore. And so it's very important that when we have 100,000 or 200,000 people sitting in the theaters on Tuesday night the 14th, that they go back and tell their friends, hey, we're going to get another showing on the 21st or the 28th, and that we bring more people out. That's the way this grows. It's one at a time, and that's what the theater captain's role is.
That's it. That's basically it, folks. Hey, Craig, I'm going to let you go because I know you are busy as heck running up to this, as all get out running up to this, and you got to go. I really appreciate you taking a minute just to jump on and help promote it and help me share why we need the captains, because you are the man. All right? I'm going to let you go.
Thank you very kindly.
I don't want to bug Craig too much, folks, because as you can guess, with the movie coming out in just 10 more days, he is running ragged. So he's West Coast, East Coast, D.C. He has been everywhere promoting the movie. He's going to be on the talk show circuit coming up all this week. He'll be on Fox News, CNN, everywhere. Any of the major affiliates, anybody that wants to talk to him, he's basically making the rounds. But we need captains. How fun to say you could be one of the captains. Kind of like, hey, the original founding fathers? I don't know. I'm excited. Hey. Anyway, that's that. Craig, thank you so much. I actually have something I want to explain from, our latest ticket winner. I was chatting with her, and she wants to make sure the fair tax gets rid of the IRS. And this goes perfectly hand in hand with my intro. But she wanted clarification on how that would happen. I talk about this. I talk about it, getting rid of the IRS, but I don't go into enough detail probably often enough. So if you're not listening to the intro of the show, you may not get this. And if I don't go into detail enough, you're not going to get it either. I would like to say there's a good chance that if you're not listening to me every Saturday night, if you're not, then I just don't think you're the coolest person possible. No, I'm teasing. If you are listening to me, folks, every weekend, then I need to recruit you for the fair tax. I need to recruit you for a movie captain for this unfair movie. And I'm not kidding about that. Consider joining me. Email me at alex@molesky.com, and I'll sign you up. And you can also go to molesky.com. I have a link directly to the Fair Tax National site where you can sign up without the bother of me. And you know what? I don't pester people. Anybody who knows they've signed up for stuff, you get about an email once a month. And I'm more about you coming to me saying you want to help and working with me. I'm not about telling you what to do. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Government does that too much, and that's not fair. But back to the question. How does a fair tax get rid of the IRS? First, the fair tax is a consumption-based tax. So the idea or form of taxation is not what gets rid of the IRS. The fair tax is just an idea. What gets rid of the IRS is the actual bill. The fair tax bill, H.R. 25 in the House and S. 122 in the Senate. The actual bill was passed automatically when this bill passes. It passed automatically. It does two things. Two things that are part of the bill. One, it repeals the 16th Amendment. That amendment allows for the government to collect taxes. And two, it automatically eliminates the IRS. Three, now let me add to this. Once the IRS is eliminated, the fair tax form of taxation, that's consumption tax at the cash register, replaces the income tax. There will only be one form of taxation. There will be no income tax, just the sales tax. So that, my friends, is how the fair tax bill gets rid of the IRS. One, repeal the 16th. Two, eliminate the IRS. Three, implement the fair tax as the replacement of the current tax code. So that's it. That's how the fair tax works with the fair tax bill. H.R. 25, S. 122. Thank you for asking for clarification and congratulations on your winning of a ticket to see the movie with me at Desert Ridge on October 14th. And for me airing this, I also sent you out the tote bag that you'll be getting soon. Folks, we're going to go to break. We're going to be right back after these words from our sponsors. Welcome back to the Fair Tax for All radio show. I'm your host, Alex Molesky. We're having a fun time today, talking about the Unfair movie coming out in 10 days. And yes, I am talking about it quite a bit. I know this might almost sound like an infomercial, but I'm not selling you vitamins. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just selling you freedom. And I really don't have to sell anybody freedom, do I? If you want to get out from under this tyranny of what we call the IRS and this horrific tax system, go to the Unfair movie. Anyway, I just explained the intro to the fair tax and also how the bill works in getting rid of the IRS. And I had a follow-up question in the same week, which actually goes right to this. It was to an old question, but it follows up perfectly. Let me just go into it. If you've been listening, I just told you why H.R. 25 S. 122 gets rid of the IRS, eliminates the tax code, and then puts the fair tax form of taxation into place, and it stands alone. There will be no other income tax. But this question is, what would stop the government from re-implementing the income tax in addition to the national sales tax? The simple answer, nothing. Nothing is stopping us from making any new laws in the United States, except that all laws take time. In Congress, the Senate, and the president, plus the Supreme Court, often take a part in some way or another when there are challenges. The real answer to this is that amendments to the Constitution take quite a bit of time to come to fruition. So we've averaged less than one every 12 years since the original 10 amendments, over 200 years ago. If the numbers play out as all of those top economists have figured out, there will be no threat of an income tax. Consumption is a much more stable methodology of income for the government, and the numbers show that it should collect a far greater amount than we are now, a steadier amount, so there'll be no big jumps. It'll be much easier for the government to budget. So I'm really not concerned at all with an income tax getting added back onto the fair tax. Highly unlikely. Very highly unlikely. And if it did happen, we would see it coming from far away. So I just wanted to follow up with that one. Also want to talk a little bit for just a moment about expats and the IRS. Last month, I mentioned that the IRS was softening a bit in regards to expats. For 3 years now, the U.S. Internal Revenue Service has moved to deploy a massive dragnet to stop tax cheats from stashing cash offshore. The good news I reported the other month was that the IRS appears to have been softening its stance with a promise to overhaul its voluntary disclosure or amnesty program, as they might call it. The bottom line is IRS Commissioner John Koskinen acknowledged that his agency has been fixated on tax cheats with too little regard for non-willful victims of its crackdown. The IRS is now working on creating a path specifically for otherwise honest people who want to comply with their U.S. tax obligations without using the hammer of steep penalties designed primarily to punish U.S. residents trying to deduct their taxes. Well said. Geography and history means Canada is home to more expat Americans than any other country, as many as 1 million potentially, folks. The tax experts say this is good news for many of them in Canada who continue to stay in the shadows, not filing tax returns as required by the U.S. law. It's the first bit of good news they had in a large while for them. Until recently, they felt targeted by their country of birth and abandoned by their country of choice. What I want to add to this is that the Wall Street Journal recently came out with a report just this week, or maybe it was earlier this month. No, this month. It is earlier this week. I think it was, when was it? Might have been Monday. I wonder if they're following my lead from this story 2 months ago. I don't know. Anyway, one of the Wall Street Journal readers posted in reply to the article is that I am one of those people who the U.S. Treasury is gloating over having collected taxes from during one of their amnesty programs. Only the IRS realized that their one-size-fits-all approach to offshore tax evasion wasn't working for all U.S. citizens living abroad, and has now moved me to a program where my penalties will be severely reduced. The U.S. government is grossly misrepresenting its success with these programs, as many of the transgressions have been determined to be non-willful. I heard an IRS agent say he wished he could bill by the hour for all the time he wasted processing these cases. Wow. So even the IRS agents are willing to privately be overheard admitting to wasted time. Just remember, folks, this wasted time the IRS agent mentions is your tax dollars at work. Even the IRS agents understand there is a tremendous waste of time. I also want to add something to that waste of time. I had a question on my 2013 tax returns. I could not log onto the IRS site since it was having problems. Not me. I had to wait 50 minutes on the line for someone to pick up for a simple question. I just wanted to verify some things have been received. I wish I could bill someone for my wasted time. Anyway, I'm not going to waste your time. I want you to stay tuned for these great messages. We'll be right back after them. Welcome back to the Fair Tax for All radio show. I'm your host, Alex Molesky. We're talking about everything fair tax, and we've had some Teflon technical difficulties here in the studio. And I'm laughing as I start my segments because Jeremy and I are joking around because, folks, for those of you that don't know, I'm too lazy to drive into the studio, and I really need the show back up there, but I've set up a private home studio, nothing ultra fancy, but the sound quality hopefully works fine for you. So I Skype with Jeremy, and we just, whatever. We need to grow up. Anyway.
Very, very true.
No, don't ever grow up, folks. Not all the way. I just want to bring up the events that are going on around Arizona and this nation of ours, for the listening audience. Just finished up Convention of States meeting today, this evening in Phoenix. That was fun. On October 7th, I will be at the Daisy Mountain Tea Party meeting, and we'll have a very short window to discuss the fair tax and talk a little about the October 14th movie, Unfair, Exposing the IRS. I'm letting you know about it just in case you just want to come out and say hey and meet me or see what they're all about. I've met Vera. She's one of the in charge there, or one of the people in charge there. And she seems like a great person. Just assuming they're right along just fiscal conservative values, which pretty much fits me to a T. So go out there, check it out. Be fun. And I have this information and everything else posted up at my website, Molesky.com, under the events tab. I've already mentioned the Unfair movie about 3 or 4 times tonight, and I'm going to keep mentioning it, but I'll be there October 14th at the Desert Ridge AMC Theater. The movie starts at 7. The event starts at 6:30. It is going to be fun. It's going to be interactive, and we also need theater captains. Go to unfairmovie.com. Find out more about it. On October 25th, just in a few weeks, Saturday morning at 10:15, we're going to be at the Wounded Warriors race in Cave Creek in North Scottsdale. And we hold signs, wave flags, salute our heroes during their ride at this accessible intersection. It's right near AJ's head up north on Scottsdale. It'll be on the right. You'll see us all at the intersection, cheering them on. Also, the weekend of 25th and 26th, I'm going to go to the Prepper Fest. It's going to be held at the Equestrian Center at Westworld, right off of the 101 in Scottsdale. I myself have never been to a Prepper Fest, and I'm really interested. There's a lot of things about it that intrigue me, so I'm planning on attending. Might have a booth, and I'm sure, afterwards, the Unfair movie, I'll have a lot of questions. And hoping if the Unfair movie is a big success, I'll be going to the movie theater also that night or soon afterwards, so we can talk about it. On the 4th, I'm hoping you're going to be voting. If I had my dithers, you'd be voting for the most fiscally responsible candidate, and specifically one that was on board with a fair tax or a sales tax versus an income tax. Bottom line is, folks, just get out and vote. Please, we need you to make your voices heard. All right, let us move on. What do I want to talk about? Might have to have a joke later on. Might have to go through my stack of fun things. But I did find this next gem. I believe it was Dave Armstrong that was posting it with some of his great graphics. Dave is one of the many FairTax supporters, and he is great at sharing FairTax information with his great images. But this is just a simple reminder, and must be a good one, because just 2 days after I printed this out, I had some other friends share the same information with their group. It's about tax increases in 2014, which I have covered here on the show before. But just in case you've forgotten or missed it the first time, it really is worth repeating here. It's about tax increases that became effective on January 1st of this year. If you haven't felt them yet in your paychecks, just wait until you start figuring out your 2014 returns. Listen in. Medicare payroll tax went from 1.45% to 2.35%. The top income tax bracket went from 35% to 39.6%. The top income payroll tax went from 37.4% to 52.2%. Capital gains taxes went from 15% to 28%. Dividends taxes went from 15% to 39.6%. And estate taxes went from 0% to 55%. Did you hear those, folks? I'm going to repeat them one more time for you. Medicare payroll tax went from 1.45% to 2.135%. The top income tax bracket rose by almost 5%. The top income payroll tax bracket rose by almost 15%. Capital gains tax rose by almost double. Dividends taxes rose from 15% to 39.6%, and estate taxes went from nothing to 55%. Nice, right? No, it's not nice. In fact, it stinks. Thanks, DC. Nice when 3 out of 4 families in America live paycheck to paycheck with less than 6 months savings. Just one crisis away from financial disaster. Just one crisis where it becomes evident you need all of your take-home pay to make ends meet in the event of a crisis. Ah, boy. They need to make some more sense for us. They need to get rid of this. Anyway, moving on. I have so much to cover, folks. And if you haven't noticed yet, this show is almost exclusively about the IRS this week. With the Unfair Exposing the IRS movie coming out in less than 2 weeks, I'm concentrating my efforts to include the IRS into the show. Granted, the IRS is a big part of the show, but I almost always have a bunch of new fair tax information to cover on the show and IRS information. Trust me, I have many, many fair tax topics. Actually, I have over a dozen, 24 to go over on the show that I've jotted down here, but that's for another week or two before I get back to them. In fact, I don't have time for guests much on the show right now because there is just too much to go over in regards to the IRS right now. I haven't been reaching out. I knew I'd be busy with this movie. Not busy that I wouldn't focus on the show, but busy that I didn't want the guest, interfering with the message that I really need to get out to you. But I can't make this stuff up about the IRS. They just keep giving me these stories. The IRS is such a mess that if I were to put a picture to the IRS in the dictionary and encyclopedia, it might look like the Jode's vehicle from Grapes of Wrath. You know, the one that looked like it was fall apart with people and tires, pots and pans, kind of like the Beverly Hillbillies and other things hanging to the sides. I feel the IRS looks like this, and sometimes it's about to just fall apart, and things are just falling off the sides, and does as this vehicle just keeps self-destructing. Maybe the Jodes better represent the people, just trying to hold it together despite the hardships that are coming their way. Just remember that there's only so much that the people can take before there's nothing left. Okay, let me share the story. And just like about everything on the show, it is news from this week. I grabbed this from the Associated Press with, once again, the guidance of fair tax friend Dave Armstrong. The man is a plethora of great information on the fair tax. But get this, the IRS failed to take all required steps for collecting unpaid taxes from people it cannot locate in over half the cases that investigators studied. This, according to a federal report released just this past Monday, September the 25th. The study does not estimate how much money that costs the government overall, but it says that in 2012, the IRS declared $6.7 billion in unpaid taxes to be uncollectible and closed nearly 500,000 cases because it couldn't find the taxpayer. That's over 480,000 people. Wow. In tracking down people with overdue bills, the IRS workers are supposed to take actions like tracing postal, motor vehicle, court, and other records. But in a study of 250 cases, investigators said that 7% of the time, that's over half the time, they found no evidence that agency workers had completed all required research before declaring the money uncollectible. 57% of the time, folks, the IRS didn't do their job. I don't know about you or me, but 43% work rate equals massive failure to me. Jeremy, I think you might be at 43% today. Sorry, I had to do that. The man is messing with me here on our Skype system, and I don't know. But anyway, I'm sorry, buddy. You can chime in if you want, but
I was wondering if you were going to mention me.
Well, you're like frozen there on the other side messing with me again. But anyway, a 57% failure rate with the IRS in completing these courses, folks. It sounds about like the antithesis of a well-oiled machine. Jeremy, by the way, folks, is at 99% running. We just had some difficulties today, but he knows I'm flexible. It's not a big deal. With the crud the IRS throws on us, man, you know this is easy.
Yeah, this is easy. A power surge, we can handle that.
Yeah, we can handle a power surge. But anyway, back to these IRS cases. In addition, 7% of these cases of that they were mentioning lacked a required formal warning that the government might put a lien on a taxpayer's property, according to the report. It's nice to know they can have a lien put on your place without a warning, huh? Just utter failure. The report was written by the Treasury Inspector General for Tax Administration, and this is a group that audits the IRS. I'm certainly glad somebody is. The IRS officials said in their written response that they generally agreed with the reports but contested some of its findings, saying the investigators overestimated the value of some of the unpaid taxes. The investigators' report conceded that even if the IRS did a better job of tracking down those owing monies, it may be difficult for the IRS to collect on these outstanding liabilities, considering that these taxpayers have already proven to be difficult to contact or locate. Okay. The study estimated that about $53 million was at stake in cases where required notices had not been filed, warning taxpayers the government will file a lien against them. IRS officials responded that the report overestimates the revenue involved in cases where lien notices had not been issued, saying it was significantly less than $53 million. They also said they believe that the government's interest is adequately protected by the lien notices they have filed. IRS officials said they are implementing some of the report's recommendations, such as creating a checklist of research steps that workers are required to take. Really? Massive failure rate at 57% failure, and it takes an outside investigating committee to report on you in order for you to create a workers checklist? Come on, this is a bunch of baloney. Once again, the IRS is caught messing something up, and they make a show of fixing the problem. I'm wondering when the rest of the country is going to wake up and realize the IRS can't be fixed. Like the Jode family truck, it's too far gone to fix. It's old, it's damaged, and it's only good for salvage parts at best. That's enough on that. I'm telling you, folks, I cannot make it up. This stuff comes to me each week. Each week, the IRS is doing this. It's just, I could do the whole show on the IRS, and I know I do concentrate quite a bit on it, and I appreciate you bearing with me as I bring this to you, but it's an important issue. It's an important issue, and it's an organization that's time has come to be gone. It's long overdue to be gone. It's old, time to be retired. Anyway, I do want to mention before we do finish the show up that PT, the man in charge of promoting, getting this FairTax movie promoted, working on that end of it, he's based right here in Chandler. He's worked with some great radio shows here on the station and other stations. There's a grand prize out there, folks, for Unfair the Movie. For a T-shirt, bumper sticker, book, DVD that will send you of the movie after the 14th. Send me a question, the best question that I air on the show in the next 2 weeks. The next week, actually, I'll do it next week. You'll get all this. The next 3 people that just text me are going to get movie tickets, all right? Talk to you later, folks. I'll be back next week with more Fair Tax for All. And I do appreciate you listening in with us. Jeremy, hope you get everything worked out there. We just faded out right there. Goodbye, folks. I'll see you next week.